crunch time for congressional candidates as they clamor for some money from national party committees. Here's what's at stake. The Democrats' Congressional Campaign Committee has reserved more than $61 million in airtime across 41 districts through Election Day. Republicans have set aside nearly $44 million in 35 districts. Joining me now, Roll Call's Shira Toeplitz. Good to see you, Shira. Good morning.
Good morning to you, too.
All right, this is what you call triage time. Explain that.
Yeah, absolutely. Parties have been harvesting financial resources for the entire cycle now, and they've put it to all these media markets. But these races change really quickly over the last 2 months of a campaign. So party committees right now look over polling data, they look over candidates, they look over the trends in the races to figure out which ones are going to be worth their resources in these last pivotal weeks and which ones are not, which races and which candidates and sometimes incumbents are on the chopping block.
Yeah, one of the most fascinating races, if not the most fascinating, at least from my perspective, is Todd Akin, of course, the Republican who made those controversial comments about rape. And the Republican Party was calling for him to step down. He got a phone call from Paul Ryan, and yet he stuck in. Part of the calculation seemed to be, once they realize I'm not going anywhere, they're going to give me money because they still want to have the opportunity to beat Claire McCaskill. Could that pay off?
It could pay off in the long run. Initially, Crossroads, the big Republican super PAC, and the NRSC, that Senate Republicans campaign arm, they pulled their money from that race after Todd Akin made those comments you just described. They said, we're not spending on this guy. They either saw it as hopeless or it was kind of a move to force him out of the race. Well, now that the deadline has passed for Akin to get off the ballot, Senate Republicans released a statement yesterday saying they're somewhat reconsidering. I think if this is a close race, a couple weeks out from Election Day, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw conservative groups go in there and start spending on his behalf. A Senate seat is a Senate seat. Yeah,
you also mentioned Democratic Congressman Larry Kissel of North Carolina. How's his re-election bid looking right now?
It's never looked really good, frankly. Since North Carolina Republicans redrew the lines in that state, they drew him a really difficult district. His re-election prospects are always somewhat hopeless. And what we've seen in the last couple weeks, House Democrats have started pooling their ad buys 1 week at a time from that district in these pivotal weeks in October. So it doesn't look like Larry Kissel, at least right now, is going to get a lot of help.
National Republican operatives had also been privately conceding that Congressman Joe Walsh of Illinois would lose his re-election bid. He is the one running against Iraq War veteran Tammy Duckworth. Are there any signs that this race is now more competitive?
You know, there are some signs. The National Republican Congressional Committee, which is the House Republican campaign arm, bought a lot of cable time just yesterday in areas that are included in the 8th District where Joe Walsh is seeking re-election. So we're seeing some hints at roll call, and we've seen some internal polls floating around that this race could be competitive. Still not sure it's very competitive yet, and there are certainly a lot of other races in Illinois that are more competitive, but, you know, it's rising.
And it's one that a lot of people are watching. So give us the inside scoop. Who else are you looking at that could potentially be facing the chopping block?
Well, first of all, let's go to Florida. David Rivera, a Republican congressman, he's had a lot of ethical issues, really brutal stories in the Miami Herald this week. National Republicans have not reserved any time there at all. A Democratic super PAC just pulled out of that race this week. To me, it's a question of whether National Republicans will even see this as enough of a race to invest. My guess is no. I don't think you'll see any national dollars really spent there in the end. And then on the Democratic side, I'd watch for John Turney in Massachusetts. Massachusetts is a true blue state. John Turney has also had some ethical problems of his own, and we saw the same Democratic super PAC pull out of the Boston market just this week.
It was a fascinating article, got us thinking, and we're glad you could come on and talk about it. Thanks so much, Shira.
Thank you.